In this episode, we'll look at some of the visual effects and tween tracks added in Watchout 4.1. Let's start by looking at the wipe effect. I'll begin by adding an image of the eye that I have sitting here, and I'll drag that onto the timeline in this way. I then move it in the stage window so it starts out at the center of this display area that's indicated by the green box here. Then let's add the wipe effect to this cue, which has appeared down on the timeline, and you can see the wipe effect now appears in the tween track area, tween pane down in this part of the timeline. As you can see, it has a number of parameters over on this side, and as it's just been added, it doesn't really appear in any way up here. It doesn't look different, and that's because it starts out with the completion set to 100%. So let's move that back, and you can see as I move the completion back, I see less and less of the eye. So if I go down to 0 here, and then I set this to 100% over here, and we go back on the timeline to here and run the effect, you can see the wipe appearing. At this point, it looks and behaves pretty much like the crop tween track, but the wipe effect has a number of other tricks up its sleeve. For example, you can set feathering of the edge. Instead of having a sharp edge like you can see here, we can increase the feathering to maybe a few hundred pixels like this. Then when you run the effect, you can see that it has a more gradual appearance as it wipes out. Another thing you can do is that you can change the starting location of the effect. By default, it starts out at the middle of the image, which is indicated by the location being 50% here. But you can change that by setting that to 0. It will start out at the left-hand side of the image, and by setting it to 100%, it will start out at the right-hand side of the image. So if you would start the wipe from here, you will see the wipe going from the right-hand side across to the left-hand side. The last parameter you can set is the angle of the effect. Let's set the location back to 0 again, so it would normally be a left to right wipe. And then we go up and change the angle up here. You can do that either by dragging the angle value in the tween track, or you can double click it and set the angle either as a numeric value or by rotating this knob over here. So if you want it to wipe from top to bottom, you would set it to 0 like this. And then when you run the effect, it wipes from the top to the bottom. And of course, you can use any angle in between. And you can also animate the angle if you, for some reason, would like to do that. So if you would do something like this, it would start out using a wipe from top to bottom. And then as it runs, it swipes the wipe angle around in that way. Let's look at one more example of how the wipe effect can be used in a creative way. We'll take a couple of other images. We have this image from a square up in Stockholm, and we'll add another image which is created in Photoshop, beginning from the image itself, but just extracting some of these triangles that you can see here on the square. And what we want to do here is that we want to have these triangles appear gradually in the direction of the arrows here. And the way we can do that is again by adding a wipe effect to the triangles and making it appear gradually by changing the completion over time. But instead of going from the center, we want to start from 0. We'll start from the left. And you can see it appear in this way. But I'd like the angle to be more in the direction that the arrows are pointing. So I'll change the angle through here. And I'll set it to something like, I think 35 degrees should be about right. So I just type that in here. I'll also increase the feathering amount to maybe... Let's double click that and set it numerically as well. Let's set it to 100 pixels. So now when we run this effect, we'll see the triangles appearing gradually in roughly the direction of the arrow. So that gives you another example of how you can use the wipe effect in a creative way.